Does it upset anyone else that it's seen as normal to have a vice? Like, pretty much everyone in our modern day society has some sort of bad or addictive habit. I mean, most people are obese, lots of people are addicted to their phones, just pulling up whenever they have a free moment, just scrolling on social media. And then there's all sorts of, the list is endless: pornography, substances, alcohol, smoking, gambling, video games. There's so many things we can be addicted to. And it's seen as normal to practically be controlled by these things, to get home from work and just flop and watch TV. I totally reject this idea. I used to have a lot of different addictive habits, and I found that life has become a lot better for me, individually and for my family, as I've overcome these different things. And so I hope you too, and I believe you do know since you're watching this video, that it's not normal to have these sort of vices. It's common, but it's a problem. It's probably causing problems for your family and your life. And so in this video, I want to talk about one of the main struggles that we face when we try to overcome one of these bad habits. What happens is, when we have one of these bad habits, we try to quit. Maybe we exert some willpower, we're finding some success, but it's painful. We feel an increase in stress because maybe that old habit helped us to sort of cope and escape. We're feeling these cravings to go back to it, whatever it is. And we find ourselves actually subtly, maybe unintentionally, replacing it with some other habit to sort of get rid of those cravings, to make us feel better in the moment. We may end up quitting that old habit, only to find ourselves replacing it with some other habit that down the line causes more problems for us, and so this cycle kind of repeats. This is something that happens with sort of formal addictions. People can replace one addiction with another if they're not careful. And so this can happen with all sorts of modern day habits to do with technology or different substances. And this is what happened with myself as well. One of the biggest things I initially struggled with growing up was my technology use. I used to play video games all day. That transformed into mostly spending time watching things online, YouTube, Twitch, social media. And for a period of my life, I was able to cut that out. But I didn't realize during that time, I was eating a lot more food. I started to gain weight. And then it dawned on me as I was learning more about psychology and different things that I had just replaced one bad habit with another. I was eating to cope. That was my new sort of vice. And so I want to explain, first of all, why this happens, and then it'll become clear what we can do about this, how we can actually quit a habit without replacing it with another bad habit. And so the sort of underlying mechanism, driver of these habits and behaviors is what's called dopamine. And so dopamine gets a lot of flash nowadays, lots of videos about it. So I'm going to try to explain it simply for how it works and what's going on here. So basically, dopamine, it helps us know what is important for us to do. When our brain recognizes something is good for us, it releases this chemical called dopamine, or it releases more of it, telling us to do that thing again. And so it helps us to feel good, which reinforces that behavior. It makes us want to do it again. So that's what this sort of spike in dopamine is. That's our brain saying this is a good activity. Now, the issue with this is our brain can get confused with all these new activities that it's been introduced in the last 10 years, a couple hundred years, things that humans have never had to deal with. So it thinks that things like processed food, gambling, smoking, whatever, it thinks these things are good. It's good. These things are sort of tricking our brain. And so we get these spikes in dopamine. And all of these different habits, this is sort of the common thread here, they all are spiked by dopamine. So they all spike dopamine. And that's why they can all be connected. Because these things are so easily available, they can spike our dopamine so much to the point where we're kind of running low. We don't have an infinite supply of this chemical. And so over time, it goes down and down. And that's where we get these cravings from. We want to feel good again. And so our brain will try to find anything, whether it be some other habit or behavior or substance, to get that dopamine again, to feel good. And so that's why when you try to quit, when you're trying to get that dopamine back up to a healthy level, your brain is in pain. It's craving, and so that's why it turns to those other things. You find yourself just spiking it with something else. So the ultimate goal is we want a healthy, sort of sustainable dopamine level, because this helps us to stay motivated. It helps us to be able to do hard things and to have energy. And so how do we get back up here when we've kind of been destroyed by all these different bad habits? So what actually creates this dopamine that doesn't lead to a crash are things that fulfill our values, that require effort. Basically, things that require effort sort of create this dopamine chemical in our brain. So with these other bad habits, they actually fulfill some of our values. And that's why our brain thinks they're good, right? Social media fulfills our value to feel connected. Video games may fulfill a value of feeling like you're contributing to a team, or that you're increasing your skill in something. However, these things, these addictive habits, the reason they're so addictive is because they don't require effort, and so they don't create that dopamine in the process. So we need to figure out activities that fulfill our values and our natural desires, but that also require effort. We can get a sort of hint of this when we look at our different bad habits that we're engaging in. You can begin to ask yourself certain questions around your bad habits, about why you engage in those things. What's the underlying cause? Is it to cope with stress? Are these habits fulfilling some sort of need for connection, for improving a skill? Is it just due to your environment? And so as you sort of begin to pay attention to what's going on, you can figure out how you can replace these bad habits in a healthier way. So I'll give you an example. With me, I used to play a lot of video games, and so I found my values, the values that it was fulfilling were things like connection, increasing my skill, contributing, and so I found other avenues to fulfill this. Part of that was learning, developing my career, learning about psychology. Part of that is what I'm doing right now. This is something that I'm increasing my skill in, something that requires effort, something that makes me feel like I'm helping people. But at the same time, it takes effort, and so it's not messing with my dopamine. In that same vein, with stress eating, that was another one that I struggled with. I began to find ways where I can deal with that stress more healthily. For me, that's being outside, listening to music, exercising, it's going to be different for everyone, and that's why I encourage you to, just for a little bit, start asking yourself these questions and just paying attention to why you might engage in these habits. And it will start to become clear how you can replace those in a healthier way. Now, if you're wanting help getting clear on why maybe you're struggling or why you're engaging in these habits, then you can click the link in the description and I'll help you figure that out, and we can kind of make progress on this as soon as possible. Or if you're interested in more about these things, these videos, please subscribe. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.